The night was silent, only the soft tapping of rain on the metal roof. Ethan sat alone in his small cabin on the far edge of the colony town. His hands worked slowly over an old plasma lantern, trying to fix its broken coil. The world outside was quiet, just the endless dark of the alien forest and the faint glow of distant lightning. He liked the peace, the calm, the stillness of being away from people. After 20 long years of working as a rescue officer in deep space, he was done with danger, done with noise. Now he lived quietly, repairing machines for settlers and avoiding memories that still haunted him at night. But something strange happened that evening. The house sensors blinked red on the screen. Motion detected outside. Ethan frowned, stood up, and looked at the monitor through the blurry rain. He saw a figure standing by the gate. Unmoving, silent, it was small, maybe a woman, maybe a lost traveler. He hesitated, but his training told him to check. He put on his jacket, opened the door, and stepped into the rain. The cold air hit his face. Sharp and clean, lightning flashed, and for a moment he saw her clearly. A young woman, barely reaching his shoulder, with pale blue skin that shimmered like moonlight. Her long silver hair was soaked, and her large golden eyes looked straight at him. She wasn't afraid, only calm, almost too calm. "Are you lost?" Ethan asked, raising his voice over the rain. The girl smiled softly, a gentle, knowing smile. "No," she said quietly. "I came to find you." Her voice was soft, melodic, but there was a strange familiarity in it. Ethan blinked, confused. "Find me? Do I know you?" She took a slow step forward. Her gaze locked on his. "You saved me once, 20 years ago," she said, her voice trembling just a little. Ethan's breath caught in his chest. He searched her face, trying to remember, but it had been so long. So many missions, so many rescues. He shook his head. "I think you've made a mistake." The girl shook her head gently, rain running down her face like silver tears. "No mistake, human Ethan Hayes," she said. "You pulled me from the quicksand on 04 when I was just a child." Her words hit him like a memory reborn. He could almost see it again. A storm tearing through the alien desert, the rescue team shouting and a small hand gripping his glove. Tiny, trembling, covered in sand, he had pulled a little alien girl out and handed her to the medics. She had whispered something to him before they took her away, but the sound of the storm had drowned it out. Now she stood before him. "Grown, alive, beautiful," he whispered. You were that girl." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "My name is Lyra, and I came to fulfill my promise." "Promise?" Ethan repeated, trying to understand. Lyra smiled softly. "You told me to live, to never give up, and I told you I would come back when I grew up." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I told you I would marry you." Ethan almost laughed, thinking it was a joke, but she didn't laugh. Her eyes didn't change. She looked at him with deep honesty. He took a slow breath, unsure what to say. "You were just a child," he said. "You didn't know what that meant." "I know now," Lyra said, stepping closer. Her presence was strange, warm and peaceful, yet filled with power. "My people honor life debts, Ethan, and I owe mine to you." She looked around his small cabin. "You saved my life, and my clan remembers that. But I came not just for duty." Before he could ask more, thunder rumbled again, and a faint hum passed through the ground. Ethan frowned. Checking his scanner, an unknown signal was nearby. Lyra's eyes widened, fear flashing in them for the first time. "They followed me," she whispered. "I shouldn't have stayed this long." Ethan grabbed his plasma pistol from the table, his instincts kicking in. "Who followed you?" he demanded. Lyra looked toward the dark sky and said softly, "Those who killed my father." The rain turned heavy again. Drowning their words, Ethan glanced at the sky, where faint red lights flickered among the clouds. He didn't know what was happening. All he knew was that the girl he once saved had returned, with secrets, danger, and a promise he didn't understand. And as lightning flashed once more, her golden eyes met his. "Please," she said, "let me stay. Just for tonight." Ethan hesitated, but something in her voice broke his guard. "All right," he said quietly. "Come in." As she stepped into his home, the sensors blinked red again. Unknown heat signatures detected, moving fast toward them. Ethan looked back at her and whispered, "What did you bring to my door, Lyra?" And she answered softly, "Fate." The storm outside grew wilder as Ethan sealed the cabin door. Lyra stood by the window, her silver hair still dripping. her golden eyes watching the night with quiet fear. He offered her a towel and a cup of hot synth coffee. She held the cup carefully, like someone who had never touched anything so warm. For a moment, silence filled the room. Broken only by the soft hum of the lantern, Ethan finally spoke. "You said someone followed you. Who are they?" Lyra looked down, tracing the rim of her cup with trembling fingers. "They are hunters," she said slowly. "They serve the ones who destroyed my home. They believe I carry something that belongs to them." Her voice cracked slightly. Ethan leaned forward. "Something? What do you mean?" She hesitated, eyes flickering toward the shadows on the wall. Then she lifted her wrist, showing him a faint blue mark that pulsed like a heartbeat. "It's not just a mark," she whispered. "It's a signal, a trace of something ancient. A part of my bloodline. They want it back." Ethan frowned, examining the glow. "So this is why they're chasing you?" Lyra nodded, her voice shaking. "My people believe I am cursed, but my father said I must never remove it. He said it connects to something greater, something that can heal or destroy worlds." Ethan sat back, his mind spinning. He was just a retired rescuer, not someone who dealt with ancient alien power. Yet here it was, standing in front of him, wearing fear and beauty in equal measure. He tried to change the subject. "You said your father was killed. What happened?" Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, gathering herself. "When I was little, after you saved me, my father rebuilt what was left of our clan, but war came again. The hunters wanted control of the relic hidden in our bloodline. He refused to surrender it. They burned everything." Her voice trembled. "He sent me away with his last words. Find the human, the one who saved you. He will protect what we could not." Ethan's heart sank. He had tried to forget the wars, the screams, the things he couldn't save. Now fate had thrown it all back at him. He stood up and started pacing, his thoughts racing. "You shouldn't have come here, Lyra, if they're tracking you. They could be on their way already." Lyra looked up, sadness in her eyes. "I had nowhere else to go, Ethan. Your people are the only ones I trust," the old rescuer sighed. Rubbing his temples, he had seen too many refugees, too many broken promises, but there was something about her voice, about how she said his name, that stopped him from sending her away. He looked out the window, lightning flashing across the valley, and then he saw it, a dark shape moving through the storm, hovering low, scanning the ground. "Damn," he muttered. "They're already here." Lyra stood beside him, her expression calm despite the fear in her eyes. "I didn't mean to bring danger to you," she whispered. Ethan glanced at her. "You brought the past." "Not danger," he said softly, "and maybe it's time I stop running from it." He moved to a hidden compartment in the wall and pulled out an old pulse rifle. The weapon hummed weakly, its power cell half dead. Lyra's eyes widened. "You still keep it?" Ethan nodded. "Some memories are hard to throw away." He started checking his security systems, activating the old field generator he swore never to use again. The storm outside grew darker, the ship's lights cutting through the rain. Ethan turned to Lyra. "Tell me the truth, what is that mark really?" Lyra hesitated, then spoke in a trembling whisper. "It's called the Seed of Continuum. My ancestors said it holds a fragment of something that connects life itself. If they take it, they can twist it to end everything." Ethan stared at her in shock. "You mean, it's not just about power?" "No," she said, her voice breaking. "It's about control over creation." Ethan took a deep breath, the weight of her words sinking in. He looked at her, this girl he once pulled from the sands, now a woman carrying the fate of worlds inside her veins. He felt something stir inside him again, the part of him that once believed he could make a difference. "All right," he said quietly. "You're not alone this time." Lyra looked at him, tears in her eyes. "You don't have to help me, Ethan." "This isn't your fight." He shook his head, loading the rifle. "Maybe not, but I made you a promise too, 20 years ago, remember?" She blinked, confused. "Promise?" He smiled faintly. "I told you I'd come if you ever called for help." Lyra's lips trembled. "And I called." Ethan nodded. "Then I'm answering." Outside, thunder rolled again, but this time it sounded like engines. The hunters were closing in, and the night was far from over. Lyra stepped closer, whispering, "Whatever happens next, thank you, human." Ethan looked at her, gripping his weapon tight. "No," he said firmly. "Thank me after we survive this." The scanner beeped red, multiple contacts approaching fast. Ethan took position by the door, Lyra's eyes glowed softly. Her mark pulsing like a heartbeat, she whispered something in her native tongue. And then, as the lights outside turned blood red, Ethan realized this promise from 20 years ago was about to be tested in fire. The rain stopped suddenly, replaced by a deep hum in the clouds. Ethan and Lyra stood near the window, watching the sky turn red and black. A ship was descending, its hull reflecting the lightning. Its engines silent yet heavy like thunder in the air. Ethan's scanners flashed warning signals. "They found us," he whispered, gripping his old pulse rifle. Lyra's golden eyes shimmered faintly, fear hiding behind calm. She touched the glowing mark on her wrist and whispered in her own language. The light spread across her skin like liquid fire, fading into soft blue veins. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked quickly. "I'm masking my signal," she said. "It will confuse them for a short time." "How short?" he asked. She looked at him. "Maybe 5 minutes." Ethan sighed. "Then we better use them wisely." He ran to the control panel and activated the old defense grid. Energy nodes around the house began to power up, one by one casting blue light through the rain. Lyra watched him with quiet awe. "You were a rescuer." "But you built a fortress," Ethan gave a small smile. "Old habits die hard." Outside, the black ship hovered low, scanning. 3 small drones detached and glided toward the house, their red eyes glowing through the mist. Ethan crouched near the window, aiming carefully. The first drone exploded in a flash. The second dodged and fired a pulse beam. The cabin walls shook as sparks flew. Lyra gasped, covering her ears. But Ethan stayed calm, firing again. He hit the third drone just before it could launch a missile. The noise faded, smoke drifted outside. But both knew it wasn't over. "That was only scouts," Ethan said. "The main ship won't stop," Lyra nodded. "They'll send soldiers next. Or something worse," he turned to her, his voice steady. "Then we need to move," Lyra hesitated. "Where will we go?" Ethan opened a hidden floor hatch, revealing a dim tunnel leading underground. "Old evac route from the mining days," he said. "Leads to the canyon's edge." She looked at him. Surprised. "You always plan ahead." He smirked faintly. "I stopped believing in luck a long time ago." They climbed down the tunnel, light flickering from Ethan's handheld lamp. The air was cold and damp. Lyra walked behind him, her soft steps echoing. She spoke quietly. "I never thought I would see you again, human." Ethan didn't look back. "I never thought I'd see you grown." Her voice softened. "You haven't changed much." He chuckled dryly. "I've aged, Lyra. I just hide it better." She smiled faintly in the dark. Even in danger, he still made her feel safe. As they reached the tunnel exit, the sound of engines roared above. Ethan peered out, seeing the black ship scanning the valley. "They're searching every life signature," Lyra whispered. "They know I'm still close." Ethan looked at her wrist again, the faint light glowing through her skin. He realized it wasn't just a mark, it was alive, like something ancient pulsing under her flesh. "What exactly is that thing, Lyra?" he asked again. She took a deep breath. "It's called the Seed of Continuum. My ancestors said it connects all living things across galaxies. It records creation, it remembers life." Ethan frowned. "Then why do they want it?" Her eyes dimmed. "Because if they control it, they can rewrite what exists, erase what doesn't obey them." Ethan's jaw tightened. "So you're carrying the key to life itself?" Lyra nodded silently. "And they will kill anyone who protects me." Ethan looked up at the storm clouds, determination burning in his eyes. "Then they'll have to go through me first." Suddenly, the tunnel shook violently, dust raining down from the ceiling. "They found the tunnel!" Lyra shouted. Ethan grabbed her hand and pulled her forward. Running through the narrow passage behind them, explosions lit the underground walls. They burst out into the canyon just as the tunnel collapsed. Fire spilling behind them, Ethan fell to his knees. Gasping, Lyra knelt beside him, placing her glowing hand on his chest. A warm wave spread through him. Easing the pain, he stared at her in disbelief. "You can heal?" She nodded softly. "Only a little, not enough to fix everything." He smiled weakly. "Still better than a med kit." Above them, the black ship hovered again. Releasing more drones, Ethan stood, loading his last power cell. "We can't fight all of them," Lyra said. "We have to run." Ethan looked at her and shook his head. "No, we don't run, we survive." He tapped his wristband, activating a hidden signal. A faint beep echoed through the canyon. Lyra frowned. What did you do? He smiled. I just called an old friend, my ship. In the distance, through the storm clouds, a faint blue light appeared. A small craft broke through the sky, engines roaring like thunder. Lyra stared in shock. You still have a ship? Ethan nodded. She's old but loyal, just like me. The ship landed near them. Dust swirling, Ethan helped Lyra climb aboard. As the ramp closed, the enemy drones fired, energy beams flashing across the metal hull. The craft shuddered but lifted, breaking through the storm into the dark sky. Lyra looked out the window, the world shrinking below. Ethan set the course, his voice calm. Where are we heading? She asked softly. He looked straight ahead. To the only place they won't follow us, he said. Her eyes widened. You mean? Yes, he whispered. 04. And as the stars filled the sky, Lyra's heartbeat synced with the hum of the ship. The past had returned to where it all began, and the shadows in the sky followed close behind. The ship trembled as it broke through the storm clouds. Ethan gripped the controls tightly, guiding the old craft through the violent air currents. Lyra sat beside him, eyes wide with awe and fear outside. Lightning danced across the sky, painting streaks of blue and red over the wings. The Black Hunter ship followed close behind, its shadow cutting through the clouds like a predator. Ethan cursed under his breath, switching to manual mode. She's old, but she can still run, he said. Lyra nodded, though her hands trembled. They won't stop until I'm dead. Ethan glanced at her. Then we'll make sure they fail. The ship's AI crackled to life, its female voice robotic yet familiar. Captain Ethan Hayes detected, welcome back. Initiating combat protocols, Lyra's eyes widened. Your ship talks? Ethan smiled faintly. Meet Nora, she saved my life more times than I can count. The AI replied, correction 27 times. Lyra blinked, half amused, half stunned. You keep count? Of course, Ethan said, pulling the craft sharply upward. Dodging a beam of plasma that cut through the air where they had been seconds ago, Lyra gasped, gripping the seat. Her mark glowed faintly again, responding to stress. The light pulsed across her skin like living fire. The ship's sensors beeped rapidly. Detecting the energy, Nora spoke. Unknown biosignal detected. Pattern not in human database, Ethan replied quickly. She's with me, Nora, don't question it. Lyra smiled faintly. Even your ship doesn't trust aliens, Ethan chuckled. She doesn't trust anyone. The Hunter ship fired again, beams tearing through the air. Ethan twisted the controls, spinning the craft through a tight roll. Lyra felt her stomach lift, but she stayed calm. Her eyes focused on the enemy. They're not shooting to kill, she said quietly. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? They want me alive, she whispered. They need what's inside me. A chill ran through Ethan's chest. He looked at her glowing wrist again. So this seed of continuum, it's inside you? Lyra nodded slowly. It grows with me, it's bound to my soul. They can't take it unless... She stopped. Unless what? He asked. Unless I die, she finished softly. The silence that followed felt heavier than the ship's engines. Ethan looked at her, and for the first time, he saw not just the alien girl he once saved. He saw someone burdened by fate, carrying the weight of an entire world, he whispered. Then dying is not an option. The ship jolted violently, alarms blaring. They hit the rear thruster, Nora said. Stabilization at 50%. Ethan gritted his teeth. We're not done yet. He dived toward the atmosphere, heading for the clouds below. The black ship followed, matching every move. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. She placed her hand on the control panel. Let me help, she said before Ethan could stop her. A surge of blue energy spread through the ship's systems. The lights flickered, then steadied. Nora's voice sounded shocked. Energy output increased by 200%. Propulsion enhanced. Ethan looked at Lyra, amazed. You just supercharged the engines. She smiled faintly. I told you. The seed connects life. It listens when I ask nicely. Ethan laughed softly. Remind me never to argue with you. He pulled the ship upward again, breaking free from the clouds into the blackness of space. Stars filled the view, endless and bright behind them. The Hunter ship emerged, firing plasma bolts, but Ethan's ship moved faster now, glowing with a strange blue hue. Lyra's energy had fused with its core. Ethan checked the navigation. We're heading to 04, he said. Lyra's breath caught. The desert moon where you saved me. He nodded. It's remote. full of old mining tunnels and tech ruins, perfect for hiding. She looked out the window, her eyes softening. "It's where my life began again," she said quietly. "Maybe it's where it will end." Ethan glanced at her sharply. "Don't say that. Not while I'm flying." For a few moments, silence returned. Only the hum of the ship and the stars passing by filled the air. Lyra turned to him and asked, "Why did you never come back to space, Ethan?" He hesitated, his jaw tightening. "I got tired of losing people," he said simply. Lyra looked at him, sadness in her golden eyes. "But you didn't lose me." Her words struck deep, a warmth spreading through the cold ache in his chest. Nora's voice interrupted. "Warning, enemy reinforcements detected on long-range scan," Ethan cursed. "They're calling for backup." Lyra placed her hand over his. "We'll make it, we have to." Ethan smiled faintly. "You always had more faith than I did," she replied softly. "Because you gave it to me. 20 years ago." The ship dived toward Zyra 4's orbit, its surface glowing red and gold beneath them. The hunter ships followed, their engines roaring like monsters in the dark. Ethan tightened his grip on the controls. "This ends where it all began," he said. Lyra looked at the planet below and whispered, "Then let's finish what fate started." As they entered the atmosphere, plasma fire lit the sky behind them. The flight had begun, but the real battle was yet to come. And in that endless sea of stars, the bond between human and alien grew stronger, a bond that no war could ever break. The ship tore through Zyra 4's atmosphere, flames wrapping around the hull like a burning shell. Ethan gritted his teeth as the old vessel shuddered violently. "Hold together, girl." "Just a little longer," he muttered. Lyra sat beside him, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. Through the fire and smoke, the red desert stretched endlessly below them, she whispered. "It hasn't changed." After all these years, Ethan glanced at her. "Still looks like a furnace to me." She smiled softly. "To my people, it was sacred ground." The ship broke through the clouds, engines screaming as it landed roughly on the cracked sand. The metal groaned, dust exploding in all directions. When the shaking stopped, both sat in silence, catching their breath. Ethan checked the radar, his face tightening. "They're still tracking us." Lyra nodded slowly. "They won't stop until the seed is theirs." He turned to her. "Then we fight right here." Her expression was calm, but her voice soft. "You fought too many wars already, human." He loaded his pulse rifle. "One more won't kill me." Outside, the air shimmered with heat. Ruins of ancient structures stood half buried in sand, the remains of an old alien city. Lyra stepped out, her boots sinking slightly. The wind carried the faint hum of energy still alive in the broken stones. "This was once a temple of the continuum," she said, touching a cracked pillar. "Here my ancestors first spoke with the stars." Ethan scanned the horizon. 3 black dots appeared far away. Growing larger, hunter ships descending, he turned back. "We don't have much time." Lyra nodded. "Then we must awaken what sleeps here." She placed her hand on the temple floor, and light spread out in circles. The sand vibrated, glowing symbols appearing beneath their feet. Ethan stepped back, startled. "What are you doing?" Her voice echoed. "The temple remembers me. It remembers you too." Before he could answer, the air filled with a low hum. The ground split open, revealing a buried structure glowing blue with life. Ancient tech pulsed like a heartbeat deep under the sand. Lyra's mark brightened, syncing with the rhythm. Ethan stared in awe. "You activated it." Lyra looked at him. "This place recognizes those who saved its bloodline." The sky roared as the enemy ships broke through the clouds. 3 dark vessels surrounded the ruins, red energy charging at their tips. Ethan raised his weapon. "Looks like they brought friends." Lyra stood beside him, her calm unbroken. She lifted both hands and the light from the temple answered. A wall of shimmering blue energy formed around them. Like a shield of living glass, the first blast hit. Shaking the shield but not breaking it, Ethan shouted, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, veins of light running down her arms. "I can't hold it for long," she said. Her voice trembling, Ethan fired his rifle, each shot striking the drones that descended from the sky. Sparks filled the air, smoke rising from the sand. A voice echoed through the comms. Deep and cold, "Return the vessel, human. Or die with her," Ethan snarled. "You'll have to take her over my dead body." Lyra's light flared suddenly. The temple beneath them answered her emotion with a deep rumble. An energy wave burst outward, sending shockwaves through the air. One of the hunter ships lost control, spinning and crashing into the dunes. Exploding in a cloud of fire, Ethan shielded his eyes, the light reflecting off his armor. He looked at her in disbelief. "Lyra, you destroyed a ship." She shook her head, breathing hard. "I didn't destroy it, the temple did. It protects me." Ethan smiled faintly. "Remind me not to make you angry." But her face turned serious. "It's not anger, it's memory." The words hung in the air. "Memory?" Ethan repeated. Lyra nodded. "The seed doesn't only store life, it remembers it, every soul, every moment. Every human who ever showed mercy, it remembers them." She looked at him with a soft gaze. "That's why it responded to you, Ethan Hayes. The human who saved an alien child when the galaxy ignored her." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He wasn't a hero, he never wanted to be one. But hearing her say those words stirred something deep. He looked at her glowing hands and said quietly, "You give me too much credit." Lyra smiled gently. "No, I give you truth." Another blast shook the air. 2 ships remained. Ethan aimed again, firing rapidly as debris rained around them. Lyra knelt, pressing both palms to the ground. Whispering in her language, blue light burst from the ruins, rising into the sky like a signal. The hunter ships paused, confused. Lyra whispered, "It's calling the past." Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the desert. From beyond the dunes, a massive old ship emerged, half buried. Ancient and human-built, Ethan stared in shock. "That's one of ours." Lyra nodded, smiling weakly. "The seed remembers your kind, too." The ancient human ship came to life, its cannons glowing faintly. The sky erupted in fire as it targeted the remaining hunters. One was destroyed instantly, the other fled into the clouds. Disappearing, silence followed. Broken only by the whispering wind, Ethan looked at Lyra, stunned. "You just woke a human ghost ship," she smiled, her energy dimming. "No, Ethan, you did." Her body trembled. Her light fading slowly, he rushed to her, catching her before she fell. "Stay with me," he said urgently. She looked up, her eyes soft and tired. "The seed used too much. It remembers. But it also takes." He held her close, fear gripping his heart, and as the temple lights faded, he realized the battle wasn't just for survival. It was for the memory of what made humans and aliens one. And he wasn't going to lose her. Not again. The desert was silent again, only the wind whispering through the broken ruins. Ethan carried Lyra in his arms, her body weak, her glowing mark fading to a faint shimmer. He laid her gently beside a cracked wall, her breathing shallow. "Don't talk," he said softly. "Save your strength." Lyra smiled faintly. "I told you the seed takes what it gives." Ethan looked up at the ancient human ship resting nearby, its engines smoking but still alive. He had no idea how it still worked, how it even remembered him. But deep inside, he felt it wasn't just metal, it was history awakened by something greater. Lyra's voice broke the silence, weak but calm. "The temple and the ship are connected. The seed remembers all who touched the light of creation." Ethan knelt beside her, brushing sand from her silver hair. "You're not dying here, Lyra. Not while I'm breathing." She reached out, her cold fingers touching his hand. "You always say that," she whispered, "just like before. When I was sinking in the sand." He felt a sting in his chest at those words. The memory flashed, the small girl's voice crying, the weight of her tiny hand gripping his glove. He had sworn to protect her, and now fate had brought her back to him. The sky rumbled again, dark clouds gathering above the desert. Ethan's scanner beeped, detecting movement. He looked up sharply. "They're coming back." Lyra opened her eyes slowly. "More hunters." Ethan stood, loading his weapon. "Let them come." The black ships descended through the clouds. 4 this time. Massive and armed. Their red lights cut through the dust like burning eyes. Ethan ran toward the human ship's control bay, shouting, "Nora, wake up!" The AI's voice responded faintly through static. "Systems damaged. Weapons limited. Use whatever you've got," he said. Gripping the controls, the cannons of the ancient ship groaned and charged. Blue fire building at the tips, Lyra forced herself to stand, swaying. The mark on her wrist pulsed again. Brighter this time, she whispered an ancient phrase. And the sand around her began to rise in small spirals. Ethan saw her from the window, his eyes widening. "What are you doing?" Her voice echoed faintly through the comms. I'm connecting to the seed again. To the heart of this planet, the ground trembled. Ancient lines of blue light spreading across the dunes like veins of living energy. The temple glowed once more, responding to her call. Ethan realized she was merging herself with the ruins. Using her life force to awaken its power, he shouted into the calm, "Lyra, stop! You'll kill yourself!" She smiled sadly. "You said I wasn't dying alone. Remember?" The hunter ships opened fire, energy blasts raining down on the temple. Ethan fired back from the human ship, each cannon shot shaking the sky. But the enemy had numbers, their shields strong. The desert exploded with fire and smoke. The ruins breaking apart, Lyra fell to her knees, light spilling from her body. The seed inside her chest began to glow brighter than ever before, she whispered. "Ethan, they can't win. If they touch this light, everything ends." Ethan jumped from the ship and ran toward her through the storm of dust and plasma. He reached her side, pulling her close. "There's got to be another way," he said. She looked up at him, her eyes glowing like twin suns. "You once saved me from the sand, Ethan Hayes. Now you must save the galaxy from me." He shook his head, tears cutting through the dust on his face. "No, I won't lose you again." Suddenly, a beam of red energy struck near them, throwing sand high into the air. Ethan shielded her with his body, the impact burning his back. He gasped in pain but refused to let go. Lyra placed her glowing hand on his wound, healing him just enough to keep him standing, she whispered. "You humans, never give up even when you should," he smiled weakly. "You're learning fast." The sky above them burst into chaos. One of the hunter ships exploded, hit by the old human cannon. Nora's voice came through the static. "Captain, final power cell engaged. One shot left." Ethan looked at Lyra, then at the sky. He made a choice. "Target the lead ship," Nora's voice replied. "Acknowledged." The ancient cannon glowed with fierce blue light. Ethan wrapped his arms around Lyra as the weapon fired. The blast tore through the heavens, hitting the lead hunter ship directly. The explosion lit the entire desert like daylight. The other ships faltered, their signals breaking apart, retreating into the clouds. When the light faded, silence fell again. The temple's glow dimmed and Lyra collapsed into Ethan's arms. Her voice was faint, almost a whisper. "It's over. For now." Ethan held her tightly, his heart pounding. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved us." She smiled softly, her eyes closing. "No, Ethan, we saved each other." The wind blew over the silent ruins, carrying away the smoke and dust. In that moment, as Ethan held her close, the seed's light pulsed one last time. It spread through the ruins, through the sand, into the stars. A message written in energy. Humanity and compassion shall never fade. Ethan looked up at the glowing sky, whispering to himself, "This isn't the end," because somewhere, deep inside the seed's fading light, he heard her heartbeat still echoing. Slow, distant, but alive, Lyra wasn't gone yet. And the final promise between them was still waiting to be fulfilled. The first rays of dawn broke across Zera 4's red horizon. The storm had passed, leaving behind smoke, silence, and glowing ruins scattered across the endless sand. Ethan sat beside Lyra's still body, his eyes hollow, his hands trembling as he held her close. The mark on her wrist had stopped glowing. Only a faint light shimmered beneath her skin, fading with each breath she took. "Don't leave me," he whispered, voice cracking. "You promised." But her eyes remained closed. Her breathing slow, fragile, fading like the wind itself. Ethan looked around. The temple was falling apart, the ancient energy draining away. He felt powerless, human among gods. He shouted into the empty air, "There has to be another way." Then the ground beneath him pulsed once. A faint hum rose from the ruins, a low sound, like a heartbeat echoing through the earth. Ethan looked down and saw lines of blue light moving toward Lyra. The seed was still alive, responding to something inside her, or maybe to him. The mark on her wrist flickered weakly. Ethan gripped her hand, whispering, "Come on, Lyra, fight." "You always fight." The blue light surrounded them both, wrapping them in a soft glow. Ethan felt warmth flooding his chest, pain melting away. A voice echoed faintly in his mind. Her voice, "Ethan." "I told you." "We're connected." His eyes widened. "Lyra." Her voice was everywhere and nowhere, soft and fading. "The seed can heal, but it needs balance. Human and alien together." He realized what she meant. The seed could bring her back, but only by sharing its power. It would take part of him to restore her completely. He didn't hesitate. "Take it," he whispered. "Take whatever you need." The light flared, bright and blinding. His memories rushed through him. His childhood, his battles, his lonely nights. And the moment he pulled her from the sand so long ago, all of it flowed into the glow, into her. The temple responded, the air shaking with life again. Lyra gasped, her eyes flying open, golden light spilling from them. Her voice returned, weak but alive. "Ethan, what did you do?" He smiled softly, his body trembling. "I kept my promise." She looked at him, realization dawning as his hand went limp. "No," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "You gave too much." He leaned closer, his voice barely a breath. "You once said you'd come to marry me," he whispered with a faint smile. "Guess. I couldn't let you break your promise." Lyra shook her head, tears falling onto his chest. The seed's light surrounded him, but his energy was fading fast. She held his face, crying, "Please don't leave." "Not now." The seed pulsed again. Brighter than before, it reacted to her pain. To their connection, blue and gold light intertwined, wrapping around both their bodies. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering, "If you go, I go too." The seed glowed fiercely, and a blinding flash swallowed them both. When the light faded, the desert was still again. The old ship rested silent under the new sun, the temple's ruins glowing faintly beneath the sand. From the soft blue dust that covered the ground, two figures rose slowly. Ethan stood, his eyes open, his breath steady. Lyra stood beside him, alive and whole, her mark now glowing gold instead of blue. She looked at him in disbelief, her voice trembling. "You're alive." He touched his chest, feeling the faint pulse of warmth. "The seed joined us," he said softly. "It made us one." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "Then the promise is complete." They stood together, watching the sunrise spread over the endless desert above them. The sky shimmered with strange colors, the seed's energy spreading into the atmosphere, healing what the battle had broken. Ethan looked at her. "What happens now?" Lyra turned toward the horizon, her expression calm and full of peace. "Now, we build a new beginning, human and alien, together." He smiled faintly. "You always make things sound simple." She laughed softly. "The sound like music, because sometimes love is simple." The old AI's voice broke through the silence. "Captain Hayes, long-range sensors show no enemy activity. The planet is safe." Ethan looked at the glowing ruins. "Then let's make sure it stays that way." Lyra took his hand, their fingers glowing faintly where they touched. The seed pulsed inside them both, calm, steady, alive. As they walked toward the rising sun, the wind carried their footprints across the sand, two shadows becoming one human, one alien, bound by light, bound by a promise made 20 years ago, and fulfilled beneath the same stars that once watched them meet, somewhere in the universe. Legends would spread, of a human who gave his life for an alien princess, and of the princess who gave it back, not with power but with love, the kind of love that even the stars would remember forever.